Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and thank you for joining me today. Today I am going to be doing a review on this book, Boost Your Knitting, Another Year of Techniques by Arnold Culliford Knitwear. I feel really bad because this review is super late, but Jen, who is one half of the couple that run this company, and she's actually pictured here on the cover, she was very kind, and earlier this year, right around the time when we moved, so in May of 2021, she sent me a package, a really generous package with several of the books that they have published. And it is now October the 19th and I'm just about getting around to filming the first review of the set of books that she has sent me. So like I said, I feel really bad that the review is so much later than I had originally planned, but you know, life happened. The summer was crazy. If you follow my channel, you follow me on Instagram or my newsletter or anything, then you know how busy the summer has been for us. Anyway, so this I believe was the second year that they did this. So this was from, I can't remember which year this is from, 2019. So I think they did the first sort of year of techniques in 2017. And so this one was from 2019, and this was titled Boost Your Knitting. So it's a series of patterns. It's kind of like a year-long club of patterns essentially, where each month you get a new pattern focusing on a specific technique. And then it also comes in a lovely book as well. So starting out, when you open up the book, you'll see the patterns are broken down based on the seasons. So you've got spring, summer, autumn, and then winter. And you got the photos of the 12 patterns in the book. And then in the introduction, it's just a really lovely introduction. There's a paragraph here that's, I think, really key, hence why I've highlighted it. And soon you realise I actually stopped highlighting things after 2 because I realised I wanted to highlight every single page, so it seemed a little bit pointless and defeating the point of using highlighting tabs. But I wanted to read out a section from here because I think it's really important. And so this says, as children we tried new things all the time and learned from our mistakes, but as we get older it becomes harder to take a risk. We have a bigger fear of failure and seem to forget that it's normal to make a few mistakes in the name of learning something new. You won't be successful every time. Indeed, sometimes you may need to admit defeat. Take out the needles and start again. There is huge value simply in attempting a technique for the first time. As you try things and succeed at them, you grow in confidence and resilience. Not every project will be a walk in the park for every knitter, but the rush of adrenaline when you fix a mistake that in the past would have had you ripping back, or the sense of satisfaction at finishing a project you felt was too difficult, is hard to beat. In short, if we can change your mindset from, oh that's lovely but looks far too difficult for me, to, oh that's lovely but looks difficult, I wonder what I need to learn to be able to make it, then our work is done and yours is just starting. So I just think that's a really important message, and it's something that I have tried to put out to the world in my teaching and my knitting and my patterns, maybe not quite so eloquently as it's written here, but that, you know, it's worth the effort to try something new. It's worth the failures, it's worth the, you know, it's worth the journey to try something new. Okay, so you move on to the contents page. You have, again, everything broken down by seasons, and so each month essentially is allocated a stitch, or a technique, sorry, and then the pattern and the designer who's associated with the pattern. So for example, in spring, that over here, for March we have tuck stitch as the technique. The project is the Brahmin Cowl by Nancy Marchant, or Marchant. I don't know how you pronounce the name exactly, I apologize, but that would be this one. Then in April, the technique that you'll learn is fixing mistakes in lace, which is associated with the Sterling Shawl by Joji Locatelli. Then in May, the technique is tubular cast on, and that the project is the Totally Tubular Mittens by Sarah Hatton. So it goes through. The first technique is the tuck stitch, and you get a really lovely detailed sort of step-by-step photo guide on how to work the tuck stitch. So another name for the tuck stitch is brioche stitch as well. So you've got a really lovely photo guide of how to do all of the techniques. And I've been given permission by Jen to actually show you the photos of the techniques, just so you can see how and what is included in the books. And it's really, really comprehensive and very detailed for every possible different stitch combination you'll need for the pattern. And then when you get to the actual pattern, I'm not going to show you the pattern itself, but you get all the general information that you get with any sort of pattern. It's interesting because they have a note here on the special techniques used in the pattern, and tells you where you can find the instructions on how to work those techniques. So obviously there's tuck stitches were on the pages we just looked at, and then there is an ebook file with some additional information that comes with this particular month's pattern, for like a 2-color long tail cast on and a sewn cast off method. And there's also a link to their website where you can find videos on how to do some of the stitches. So it's really comprehensive. And there's even a note here, which I've highlighted again, which I think is really important, especially when it comes to doing something like a tuck stitch or brioche knitting, is knowing how to read your knitting to figure out where you are in the pattern. So there's a note here in this paragraph on how to do that. And then I'll cover up the pattern with my hands here. The next technique is fixing mistakes in lace, and this was the April technique. And again, you get the full detailed line, photo by photo, step by step guide on how to do this. And now this, I remember the first time I saw pictures of someone fixing lace and this whole method with all the different strands pinned out, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, that looks horrendous. And it does seem a little bit horrendous to look at it, but when you break it down and you look at it step by step and you understand why you do it, how you get to that point, and then how you get back to your shawl looking the way it should be, is actually, it doesn't seem so scary anymore. There's logic behind why things look the way they look in the process. So I think that's a really nice one to have in here. And again, with the pattern instructions, you have all the same stuff with the special techniques, links given for the different, where you can find different techniques on their website. Okay, I just want to skip past the actual patterns. I don't want to show you all of those in detail. So then next we have tubular cast on, and as you get an idea of how this is going to go, each month has the same sort of formula where you have the technique first, so in this case the tubular cast on, followed by the pattern. Pattern notes always gives you a little bit of extra information on what you need to know before starting. And then the actual pattern itself, which I'm not going to share. So then moving on to summer, our techniques are for June, the dip stitch, and that's the project is the apple swizzle hat, so that's this one. The designer is Thea Coleman. Then for July we have Intarsia in the round, and the pattern is the Heart Guile Socks by Julia Farewell Clay. Oh, this is going to be a real test for my pronunciation of names throughout this book. Then for August we have Choosing Colours for Stranded Colourwork as the technique. The project is the Sky Stone Arm Warmers by Felicity Felix Ford. So again, we get a nice photo tutorial on how to work the dip stitch and the different versions of the dip stitch that are included in the pattern. Then in the actual pattern section, you again have your special techniques noted as to where to find them, where to find video tutorials, etc. And then you've got the actual pattern, which I will cover up with my arms. And then for July, we have the technique of Intarsia in the round. So there we get all the photo tutorials again on how to do that. Now, Intarsia, flat or in the round, is actually a technique I've never tried myself. And I will be honest, it's not because I'm afraid of it, because there's not really much with knitting that scares me. It's just things I don't know how to do yet, which again goes back to the whole principle of this book and the thing they're trying to teach you about is taking risk and trying new things. It's just not something I've personally been interested in learning how to do. I think if there was something that came along that made me want to learn how to do it, then yes, I would figure it out, or I would look at this book. Then we have some photos here showing you what the Intarsia is going to look like at the joins and at the back in the wrong side of the work. Then you get the actual sock pattern, and same information again that you get with all the others. And the last one for the summer section is the August pattern. The technique was choosing colours for stranded colour work. Now this is a question that comes up a lot, and people struggle with picking out colour combinations, especially when it requires more than 2 or 3 colours. Like in these situations where you've got multiple colours for a stranded colour work project, it can be quite hard to find a harmonious colour palette that will also give you enough contrast to actually show off the design. It is quite tricky, but then they go into detail about how to like study inspiration and how to like match yarns to go with that. They show you all sorts of different ways of achieving the look you want, and then using the trick of looking at your yarns in black and white to see if there's enough contrast and all of that. So I think that's actually in and of itself a really good resource for anyone who struggles with matching and putting together colours for colourwork projects. And it's not too long, so it's not an overwhelming amount of information. It's like 4 or 5 pages, so I think that's quite nice. And then we move on to the actual pattern, which again comes with all the standard information that you need, and any patterns that have charts in them are also included in the book. And I think when you buy the book, don't quote me on this, I think when you buy the book you also have the option to get the ebook with it as well, so you can have it both digitally and in hard copy. So then for the autumn collection of patterns, in September we have the technique of brioche knitting. So this is like more traditional brioche, whereas previously we had tuck stitches, which I guess has some variation compared to brioche knitting. The project is Flying Leaves Scarf by Carol Feller. Then in October there's the technique of joining in yarns, so I guess adding in yarns as you're going along. The project is the Marangoni hat, which is this one by Tori Sierstad. I apologise if I butchered that name. And then November we have the technique of Marlisle, and the project is the Super Sweater by Anna Maltz. So the Marlisle technique is also what I just call marling personally, but I think Anna Maltz coined the term Marlisle, and that's what she refers to it as. So then you go through, for the first month, September, we've got the brioche stitch. So again, it goes through all the brioche techniques here for you. And then you go through, and then you've got the actual pattern itself. And then for the joining in yarns technique for October, again, you have a lovely photo tutorial on how to do it. It shows you step by step of the way how to do it, what to do, what it looks like on the wrong side of the work, all of that, how to join yarns. I think it's this, so yeah, this is for splicing yarns together and using water, like friction, especially if you've got yarn that's non-superwash, this works really well. And then you move on to the actual pattern. And then finally for autumn we have, in November we have Marlisle as the technique. So again, it's shown here, and it's this shows you a technique, a basic method for Marlisle, and also working a decorative seam, which I think is a really fun idea. And then other instructions for increasing, managing the twisting of your yarns, all the sorts of things that you might come across. And then you move on to the actual pattern, and you can kind of see here a little bit down the sides what that decorative seam looks like, which I think is a really fun feature. And then finally we move on to the patterns in the winter section of the book. So the final 3 patterns. December, the technique is double knitting, which is the Peaks and Troughs hat by Jen Arnold Culliford. Then in January, the technique is toe up gusset heels. The project is the Alcedo socks by Wendy D. Johnson. And then February, the final pattern is finishing techniques for toy knitting, and the project is Brunny the Bunny by Ella Austin. I'm sort of stumbling over my words today. So for double knitting, again, as with all the others, you have your step-by-step photo instructions on how to do all the different techniques you will need, including weaving in your ends in double knitting, which can seem quite confusing because there is no wrong side, and your wrong side is in between your double knitted fabric. So some people find that a tricky concept, which actually I would too. If I was doing something in double knitting, I wouldn't know entirely how to weave in those ends, so that's useful. And then it goes through the projects and how to work that. And then for January we have the toe up, gusset, heel. So again, full on instructions, step by step on how to actually work those stitches, doing your gusset, heel, toe up before moving on to the pattern. And then finishing techniques for toy knitting. So again, breaks it down, stuffing your toys, sewing up the body, sewing on legs, arms and ears, final checks, creating a face, all those sorts of things, the different steps you need to take to kind of bring your toy together once you've knit all the pieces. Now, there again, I've only ever knit one toy in my entire knitting life, and I will be honest, toy knitting just is not for me, mainly because it's such a tight gauge and that hurts my hands. But if you are an avid toy knitter, and I know some people absolutely love knitting toys, then some of these techniques might be useful to know. It's things like, what I'm noticing is they use some scrap yarn in a contrasting colour to put in some guides to show you where you want to like join things so that you don't so that everything is even, which I think is quite handy. And then you've got the actual project with instructions on how to make the bunny as well. And then finally, at the very back, you have extra information, additional resources, tension information, where you can find them, the yarns used, other support and video tutorials that are provided in on their websites. And they have some information about some of their other titles that are, so this A Year of Techniques I believe was the first one that they did. They've actually also sent me these 3 books, so I will be reviewing these at some point as well. Something new to learn about cables, something new to learn about lace, and something new to learn about helical knitting, which will be interesting. And there again, there's details on the team and all the designers who contributed to the book. And finally, there's a full abbreviations section at the back of the book as well. Although the abbreviations for each pattern are included in the pattern sections, but if you just wanted an overall view of all the different abbreviations, that's in the back there as well. Okay, so hopefully you found this flip through somewhat informative. If you were interested in purchasing this, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great, especially if most of these techniques are new to you, I think it's great to have this sort of visual resource at hand and be able to refer back to it. I think photos are definitely very helpful in this instance, and especially if you can't get to like an in-person knitting workshop or lesson or anything like that, it can be quite handy to have something like this. I will leave links down to the Arnold Culliford Knitwear website. I am not affiliated with them in any way. I was sent these books for free, but I'm not being paid or sponsored or anything. I don't get any kickbacks, none of that. If you guys make any purchases, it's just I think it's a great book. I think it's a great resource. If it's something you're interested in, I would highly recommend checking it out. So like I said, I'll leave links down to their website where you can find out more information and purchasing options. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you guys again very soon in another video, and until next time, take care. Bye!